Hey, everybody. Welcome to Shalom Letters Podcast with the Brian Newman, author, lyricist, TV show host, dad, and veteran. I'm Melissa Collins. I'm friend and ministry partner of Brian's and also the voice of Miss Ava Hill of the Town cartoon series found on YouTube. This is our fourth episode of Shalom Letters, and we are a podcast where listeners can write into our show and then we share a Bible commentary or even dream interpretation from your submissions. Again, all of that from a biblical perspective. As always, in today's episode, I'll be interviewing Brian and then we just let the Spirit lead. So let's get started. How are you, Brian?
Good today. How are you, Melissa?
I am doing so good. It's a great day. It's been a beautiful day. Just happy to be here.
I saw we had some listeners from Germany, von Deutschland, and Africa. So that made me very happy.
Yes, I am so excited. There's four episodes now, and they are literally traveling all over the world. It's amazing to see God's hand at work in this.
Awesome. Yeah, I lived in Germany, as you know, like in the military, in the Air Force, and then I went back as an exchange student to a language school in Munich, and then I was exchange student at German college, and I totally forgot every bit of it. But Traum is a German Traum is a German word for dream. So I always loved that word. But it was
Oh,
20 years ago when I heard it. I was 2000, 2001, and 2002 in the Air Force in Germany at Ramstein Air Base, and I loved that word. But I knew nothing about dream interpretation until I was 35 years old. 15 years later, had no idea that was even a thing people did. But that word always stuck with me. So it's like one of those precursors where you just have a feeling this is going to be important later. Pay attention, but you have no
mm,
idea why. Like when I was in elementary school, I was thinking about Germany. There's an article on it, and I just felt like I'm going to be there one day. I had no idea how, because I was living in a trailer park, in a town with no traffic light. Not really the kind of place people go to travel internationally. But it's like that's gonna be. I'm going to be there one day, and sure enough, total miracle story in the Air Force. I just switch assignments last minute. I mean, it was crazy, but I think there's a lot of things like that in life for people, or it's a precursor for something happens later. And you work at somewhere in an office or somewhere that has a lot of German employees or a German company, right?
yeah, I previously worked for a German company, and yeah, I have quite a few German friends from that. They're fantastic people. Love them to death. And then I still have a lady who I went to high school with who was a foreign exchange student, and she's also from Germany. So I still keep in touch with her a little bit on Facebook.
Awesome, awesome. We're going international, and I know in Germany is very scientific, very modern,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of spiritual history there. The Protestant Reformation. They're the first country in Europe to give religious liberty, complete religious liberty. I think it was 1886. So they kind of the first country in Europe to totally do that. So they're really progressive in that in spirituality. But we have some viewers from Africa too. In Africa and the Middle East, dreams are very important still. Muslims all over the world having dreams where Jesus appears to them in a dream and says, "Hi, I'm Jesus, and I'm more than just a prophet."
Hmm.
And Africa, of course, is a very big thing still. It's a very big storytelling tradition and a dream tradition. So I'm glad we're reaching places where it's been historically acceptable to for the dreams. Like it's a big part of the culture, and also places like Europe where it's kind of a forgotten art.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the historical aspect, but then the prophetic aspect as well. And, we were talking earlier, there's just, you know, in the last month that we have been doing this, it's just people are coming out of the woodwork with these dreams. I'm seeing it on all the social media formats. It's just so many people now are having dreams, Muslims, Christians, men, women, everyone's so many people. It's just mind blowing. And it's really like Acts 2 is coming to fruition as we speak.
Oh, exactly. What's that Facebook group? X2, the Remnants. I'd look it up. Someone just started a Facebook group about dreams, and I've been interacting in it a lot. It's one of your friends,
Mhm.
X217 manifested.
Mhm.
If you guys looked it up and joined, there's a lot of people posting about their spiritual dreams in there. And it's like John Paul Jackson said it, the spirit's going to be poured out on all flesh in that scripture, not just Christian flesh. So there's a lot of people that aren't Christians that are having dreams from God. And that's going to be a thing in the last days. That's where so much prophetic evangelism, where some people interpret dreams or give prophetic words to total strangers that aren't believers. And a lot of times they did it with the dreams, and it opens up doors for conversation about spiritual topics that you wouldn't have otherwise. That God's
Absolutely.
really using it like to open that door. Like it opened the door for Daniel, opened the door for Joseph. He even opened the door for Pilate not to do something incredibly stupid because his wife had a dream about Jesus. Well, she was taking a nap middle of the day, as the Romans did, and the rich people did. And there was she had a dream about Jesus. Like, don't do this. This is a totally pagan person. So it's opened up the dreams. Dreams are opening up conversations for evangelism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just pulled up that group, but yeah, definitely want to give a shout out and a little plug for them on the podcast here. Um, if you go to Facebook, it is a group that you can ask to join. The name of it is Acts 217. So Acts colon 17 manifested. And that group is just blowing up right now with dream submissions. And then I believe, Brian, you're an admin, I think, of that group now.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
and so, Brian is being super active on there and going on and giving just amazing, spot on dream interpretations. So, as always, you can submit your dreams directly to us. We have our own Facebook page as well, Shalom Letters. Um, but if you want to see that you are not alone, there's a lot of public dreams being posted inside of this group. So go check that out.
Absolutely. And if you go to Let's Talk Shalom, which is the website for my TV show, I've got to put some more episodes up when they're posted by the station. But let's talk shalom.com. You can go there and you can go to podcast. And there's a link to our podcast where you can listen to all of our episodes on Spotify and Apple and all these things Melissa was kind enough to set up because I'm very technically challenged. And and I have a dream coaching tab on there now too, where the first one's free, but I have a life coaching certification and a master's in human services, and I was also a peer support specialist. So I've got some experience in these different fields. But it's 30 minute on the phone. And you tell me your dream, and I'll do it and help you interpret it as best I can. Help you learn how to interpret, and help you interpret this dream or see how to reveal the interpretation. And then also provide you with some resources for whatever situation your dream is addressing. Because a dream isn't standalone. A dream's always addressing your calling. It's addressing your struggles. It's some kind of warning. It's showing you what's going on with you that needs some attention, or in a relationship that's having issues. And there's a giant website, shalomtoyourheart.com, where you have resources for all these different things through all these different ministries, like books, videos, articles, organizations, it's like an encyclopedia, or like a phone book for help by topic. So I'll connect you with whatever that's appropriate to. So you get a dream interpretation, you get it's like a pastoral kind of counseling with it, life coaching, and you also get I'll send you some resources. So it's well worth the $30 for half an hour. It's cheaper than getting a haircut, and it probably lasts a lot longer as far as effectiveness.
Absolutely. I can attest to that. Yes. I'm not sure where I would be in life without your life coaching. So
Thank you.
definitely a perk to being Brian, one of Brian's best friends. So bless his heart. I wear him out sometimes, I'm sure though.
He blessed me too.
So back to one of the things you mentioned there that comes along with the session with you. Is one of the things that you do is kind of explain how to interpret the dream. So I thought about taking one of our dream submissions, and can we kind of walk through this and
Hmm.
maybe use it as an example of that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get started reading this. It's a little lengthy,
Okay.
So bear with me as I read this. So, again, this is another anonymous submission. So, any names have been omitted, and anytime any of our viewers request that in our submission, we are always faithful to honor that. Okay, so here goes with our next dream submission. It was submitted by a female, and she said, I had a dream this morning. I was in like a dollar store at first. I think I bought something to drink. A friend of mine from childhood was in there. She didn't work there, but she actually swiped my card for me before I even got up to the checkout. So it was paid for by the time that I actually got up to it, and I was able to breeze right through. I walked toward the door to exit, and there were three other ladies. So as we were walking that way, we were chatting, and one of them happened to be the only one in our state who could do something. I believe it was like play an instrument in a certain way or something. But we stopped and we're admiring these cool decorations that the dollar store has for sale. I was looking at a basket in particular. So as we're exiting, I have on this long jumpsuit, and the legs of the jumpsuit are really wide and big, but they're too long. And I'm having to pull them up and kind of hold them to walk as I'm going out of the store without stepping on them. And then there's like a Goodwill that is attached to the dollar store. And so I go in there. My pastor and one of his middle sons are there. His son, who I'm actually very close to in real life, he picks out this covering for me. And I see one that I like better on the next rack. It was, let me see, I think I end up getting the one that he liked, though. The one that I liked was more glittery and had the colors of baby blue and pink. The one that he had was very neat and classic and black and white. In real life, they would have both been ugly, but in real life, I would have preferred the black and white one. I'm talking with my pastor, and we are laughing and we're hanging out like friends, which we are, but in the dream, it almost felt flirty and like I was almost attracted to him. We were about to play pool or something, but I'm messing with this thing to the side that had some kind of animal statues on it. It was like a green field, and I was standing up the animals in their places. It was either brown bulls or big brown horses, something like that. I kind of get the feeling that this stuff was from someone's estate. I don't really remember the last part of the dream, but I just remember us talking and laughing. Even in the dream, my subconscious realized that the semi type of flirting was out of line and we had this attraction to deal with. Nothing happened, it was just feelings in a dream. But I remember there was something about the piece of paper, and even on waking up, I knew that my pastor would know what that piece of paper said. And that's the dream submission.
Hmm. Someone had a dream with me once about a piece of paper. An angel was giving it to me, but I was totally ignoring the angel to talk to this girl in the dream. And there was that. I still don't know what the piece of paper meant, but it's really important, and it drove me crazy for several months. So I can kind of relate to that at the end. Um, so the dreamer is involved in the dream. So sometimes there's dreams you're observing, which is like a future event, a prophetic event. Maybe something doesn't really involve you, the dreamer, like you being the dreamer, like in the linguistic sense of as the dreamer would not be participating in it. Like if you had a dream or I had a dream and we're watching it happen like a movie, then it's not something really affecting us usually. It's just something either God wants to make us aware of or something we might be able to intercede for in prayer. But it's not something directly affecting our life. But in this case, like if I have a dream and I'm inside the dream and I'm interacting in the dream's usually about me. So this dream very much affects the dreamer. Like this is affecting their real life. This isn't pray intercede for that situation over there, or like some kind of prophetic understanding where God's just showing the dreamer another situation. This is like actual real life affecting people. Decisions to be made. Information is needed to make decisions or to take action. So that's something to be aware of. Is like, is the dreamer observing or is the dreamer participating? So the dreamer is participating. So then we can do like a line by line. So just read me the first few lines of it, and I'll analyze them like in little bits.
Okay. So at the beginning, she was in the dollar store at first. It's her, a childhood friend, and she's her friend somehow uses the dreamer's looks like debit or credit card and swaps the dreamer's card prior to the dreamer getting to checkout, and she just breezes right through with her drink.
So here's a question we ask about place: is why here, not there? So why is it the Dollar Tree, not the Walmart, not the Target store, not Nordstrom's? It's the Dollar Tree. And then also why or what would you get at a Dollar Tree? What makes a Dollar Tree different from those other stores is kind of the big thing. What would you associate with the Dollar Tree or dollar store? Because the dollar store's got the word dollar in it.
So it's
These
cheap.
it's cheap, and cheap isn't always bad, but cheap implies very temporary. These things aren't meant to last forever. They're not very significant. They're not um, rest of your life stuff. They're not a huge investment. They're not a huge sacrifice either. Nothing about the Dollar Tree is going to be a big sacrifice for you.
True.
And it's not meant to last for years and years and years. Like you buy a new coat at J.C. Penney's, you expect it to last a while. If you buy like a windbreaker at the Dollar Tree, at the dollar store, A, it's not 1985, so don't do that. But B, if you buy a windbreaker at the Dollar Tree, dollar store, then you don't expect it to last very long. It's very temporary. So all
Mm,
those associations with the Dollar Tree are temporary, convenient, not meant to last a long time, not a big cost to you, the dreamer, not a sacrifice. So where the dreamer needs to know this is all applies a temporary. If you're dreaming, if you're listening, this is a temporary kind of setting. It's not uh, something that's going to endure forever. It doesn't seem.
hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
so that's something to think about. It's like temporary. Everything in Dollar Tree is temporary. It's also kind of a fun, convenient, casual kind of atmosphere. You don't get really dressed up for it. So it doesn't require a lot of preparation to go to the dollar store. So I get the dollar store, the Dollar Tree messed up all the time, and the Dollar Tree is actually now the $1.25 tree because of Biden's economy. So the dollar store is somewhere you don't have to prepare a lot to go there. You just kind of stroll on in. This might be a situation you just kind of strolled into. So that's a lot. So there's a childhood friend. So a childhood friend could represent the actual friend, the actual person, or it could be whoever the childhood friend represents. Like a childhood friend might have been a kleptomaniac, so they steal stuff all the time, thieving, or the childhood friend could have been very popular. So the childhood friend represents being popular or accepted. Or people represent different things. People are, about half the time there's symbols in a dream, and there's this refreshment. Well, it's a drink, a beverage is usually a refreshment, especially in summer. So this is something that refreshes you, makes life easier, helps you keep going, and you had paid for it beforehand. So something you, the dreamer, had paid for in advance, something you did earlier in life, has made this refreshment available now. Like if you did something 10 years ago that was good, it might prepare the way for something to happen now. Not karma, but similar. Like it maybe something had set the stage for you to have some kind of refreshment now. Like if you have friends that are, if you want Christian friends, you all of a sudden you have Christian friends and they're very close to you. Well, maybe because maybe 10 years ago you decided to give your life to God, start going to church. Therefore, now you have this big Christian community. But back then you wouldn't. If you hadn't made that decision, you wouldn't have.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of setting the stage right there for a little bit of it. That's kind of the thought process. Okay, this place, what does this place represent? Why is this place different from those places? There's a person in this dream. Is this person themselves, or does this person represent a characteristic they have? Or does this person represent that time in life, like childhood? And debit cards or money are usually favor or sacrifice. Like if you get money, that's favor because that gives you favor with man. You can get things done. You can buy things that you need, or it's going to cost you something. Like you get a ticket or a fine. There's a sacrifice has to be made, or there's a cost to a decision. And of course, drinks are usually some kind of refreshment,
Mm-hmm.
so you can keep going.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Amazing. All of that from just a couple of lines. That's very deep and wow. Okay, gotcha.
That's why they can be complicated sometimes because it's like, oh, it can mean five different things. So it's the hard part of dream interpretation is sorting out which of those five things it means right here.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's usually the dreamer knows though, like they can pinpoint. Oh, they'll feel it. Because I'm not a prophet, but like a prophet could probably feel it for you, but or the dreamer would feel it. Like they would once you hit on it, they would know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's look at the next couple sentences. So now she's exiting, she's walking toward the door. There are three other ladies who are exiting at the same time. They start chatting, and one of the three says she's, I guess, really something unique. She's the only person in the state who could do something, and she thinks it was like play an instrument in a certain way. And so they stop and they admire the cool decorations that the dollar store has. And the dreamer in particular was looking at a basket.
Hmm. So they're about to exit the store, like
Yeah,
leave the building to go somewhere else. So they're,
yeah.
but they're all still together and they're all still in the building.
Hmm.
So they're in that temporary place, like the dollar store. This is when the dreamer has met these people, has encountered these people. There's three of them. Three is usually the number of witnesses. Like there's a maximum number of witnesses. Three is all you need in the Bible to establish a matter. So if these
Oh.
people might witness something, they might be able to, yes, this is true. We saw it. It really happened. All three of us saw the same thing. And one of them has a special gifting. It sounds like worship. My best guess. So there might be three people aware of a situation, and one of them does worship. But they have a special gifting. Everyone else is kind of admiration of this individual. So it seems like those might be actual people. Usually, a faceless person isn't an actual person, but sometimes they can be. But there's three witnesses, and or worship might be part of what came into the person's life as they were exiting this building, as they were moving on to something else, transitioning out of one place in life to another. This was someone they encountered, or it's someone with a special gifting. They or maybe they ran into a special gifting. Because sometimes persons aren't persons; they're just the gifting they have.
Hmm.
So, like a music or a worship, or it's a very unique way of worshiping God, or a very unique way of leading others to worship God that came into life, came into play. And it could not just be just an instrument. I mean, like if someone suddenly became messianic or Hebraic, they would start doing Jewish music or messianic music, which is very rare in certain states, in certain areas of the country. So it wouldn't be an instrument. But like they just do Davidic dance, or they started worshiping Hebraically, or thinking Hebraically. So that could be a
Gotcha.
factor. So they're leaving the building, and the dreamer encounters these three ladies, and they all leave the building together, or they stay in the building, or
Yeah, they're all leaving together.
all leaving together. So they're all making an exit out of something. So if like say the dollar store, it might represent a church or a school or a town or something like that, but they're all leaving at the same time. They're all transitioning out of there, or denomination or something like that. Okay.
So as they're exiting, though, they stop and pause and they look at some decorations that the dollar store has for sale. The dreamer in particular was looking at a basket. Any significance to the basket?
Well, they're leaving, but they get distracted along the way. Oh, they get held up almost
Mm-hmm.
in this temporary place by these things that aren't really worth a lot. But they're
Gotcha.
pretty and cute, and they're like, I will hang out and fool with it, kind of thing. So basket, there's a term basket case, which isn't really in the dream, but it's always be aware of play on words. Like someone's a basket case, that's a play on words. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. That would be implying you're putting eggs in a basket to count them. So a basket's function, though, is there's play on words and there's function. Its primary function is to collect things. So she's looking to maybe take some things with her, either collect some things together, or like she's leaving this place in life, or this place spiritually, or this place relationally, and she's wanting to take something. She's about out the door. She's about to make an exit and goes back and gets distracted and is looking at these things she wants to take with her, maybe, or a means to, can I take some of this with me? Like she holds on to the past, or she's a
Mm,
traditionalist who's always trying to take things from her last place to her next place and
wow.
wanting a means to do that with. Because what does a basket do? Is it helps you transport things from the last place to the next place.
Wow. That is so good. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for her to hear this. I really hope she's listening now. Okay. So next she
If
has on
she's
a
listening, I accept pastries as gifts as love offerings.
uh I just almost, it's so funny you mentioned that, because when I was watching Nehemiah Restoration Fellowship live stream yesterday, of course, knowing you were moderating the chat, I almost was like, Shalom, Cookie Monster.
So these are running jokes because Brian had a singles group and it was people. Do you take donations? And at the time, I was like, well, sure if you want to, but if it was like, I don't have much money to give, you can always send me cookies, and I was joking. And then it became like a real life thing where people would literally send me boxes of cookies for several years. And they still do boxes of cookies. So, and my favorite color is blue. And I was in the Air Force. We were blue. So there's this guy, cookie in a blue shirt, all over Facebook. So Cookie Monster became a kind of a running joke, and one numerous nicknames. And when I met Melissa, it was on Facebook. And the first thing I ever saw was she had this woman made like a whole table. She had like a 12-foot long table full of pies for
Yep.
Thanksgiving. Every pie imaginable. It's like a 12-foot long table. I was like, who is this? I need to be their friend because I don't have parents. I don't have a spouse, and I need somebody to cook for me. So like, I'll make friends with this person. Maybe they'll invite me over.
And
So
thus
sure,
our friendship began
that's
over
our friendship we
pies.
get over pies. So pastries are effective means
Of gratitude.
of gratitude. And yeah, it was big, long, three tables, picnic tables together, full of nothing but pastries. I'm like, who is this person? Friend request. So that's how we became friends in 2014.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and she is a good cook, as her
Aw.
husband can testify too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And her
Yes.
three and her three boys, they are
And
well
my
fed.
and my weight as well. The scale testifies of that.
I don't cook, and I'm still chubby.
Okay, back on track here.
So baskets.
Yep. Okay, so we did the basket last. Okay, so next she notices that she at this point she's already left the dollar store. She has on a jumpsuit. Um it sounds really pretty, but it sounds like the legs are too long. So she's having to hold up her pant legs to be able to walk without stepping on them. And then as she's doing that, walking, holding her pant legs, she goes into the Goodwill.
Um, so it's a jumpsuit from a dollar store. Not the height of fashion, of course. But his dreams are symbolic. So what does a jumpsuit do? You don't go to the bank. It was you don't go to a board meeting in a jumpsuit. You don't go to church in
Um,
a jumpsuit.
well, the way she described it, it was a really pretty fancy jumpsuit. Uh, I personally don't own any jumpsuits, but another one of my best friends that you and I have in common,
Hmm.
she has a jumpsuit, and it's this one piece, and she does wear it to church. It's beautiful. Actually, now that I'm thinking about, it's Tonya. Tonya has this gorgeous jumpsuit that she wears to church, and it kind of sounds like hers. So it's hers has got like the really wide pant legs, and they're kind of flowy, so it kind of looks like she's wearing a skirt,
Uh-huh.
but it's pant legs, and but it's all one piece. But I do remember having jumpsuits like when I was younger, and so my equivalent to a jumpsuit now would be like my hunting overalls. And
Oh, okay. So
the
we
only
have.
thing about like
Uh-huh.
jumpsuits and my overalls, you don't go to the bathroom easily. Like you have to completely undress.
You have
Just
to
had
be
to
fully in,
decide.
as what's that Firehouse Subs sandwich? Fully involved. You have to be fully involved to wear this thing. Oh, that's jumpsuit. I was thinking like a windbreaker. It's most important. Like okay, like there are people have different terminologies for things.
Hmm.
Like actually here in Germany, gift means poison. Like they say, I want to gift you something.
Oh my
That's a death threat.
gosh.
So you got to be really because they have a present. They say present. They have gift and present or shink and something. But like you say gift, that's literally the word for poison. I want to gift you something, Hans, or or Schmidt or whoever it is. Very
Well, I
specific
wanted
with
to.
your words.
Well,
So
I
a
wanted to clear
jumpsuit,
up the jumpsuit thing because I know Tanya will listen. She'll be like, "What?
because
I
in my
should buy
mind, a
my
jumpsuit,
jumpsuit
it's
to
like
church."
MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, 1985, Windbreaker. So is this like a one piece business suit? Maybe.
It's like a one piece. It is a one piece thing that will either like zip up the back or have that. Most of the time they zip up in the back or like we'll have a little zipper on the side or something. But yeah, it's just like a one piece pretty outfit.
Oh, it's not, but it's not like an athletic outfit.
No, no,
Oh, okay.
it
So
would
they totally
be
changed the interpretation because I was thinking, well, this
no. It
person's
was more
prepared
like
for action for something.
dressy casual, like casual dressy kind of
Oh,
suit.
okay. So it's like a business suit. It just has to be like a one piece business suit. It's not what I was thinking at all. You like play basketball in, which totally changes the meaning of the dream. I actually have a friend in California who went to MC Hammer's church, like they were friends. Um,
That is
yeah,
so neat. You are 2 degrees of separation from MC
MC
Hammer.
Hammer. There's a meme on Facebook. It says like this guy thought this guy's daughter was a millennial. She thought MC Hammer was a Scottish guy, like Mick Hammer.
Oh my
Like you
gosh.
cannot touch this. You cannot touch this. It's like,
That is too legit,
you
Brian.
cannot
Too
touch
legit.
this. You use it too legit to quit. you uh, lassie, what she thought was Mick Hammer. Uh, it was hilarious. But see, it totally changed the interpretation of dream as cultural context. Like you say jumpsuit, you think banker. I say jumpsuit, I think MC McHammer. MC Hammer. So this is these things you have to sort out with the dreamer. It's like,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? Because I think you and I use this word differently.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Just by
Tanya. Well, you're
just
very classy. No one's doubting that.
yeah, just by what little I know about the dreamer, I would say it's not the basketball athletic
Oh,
one.
okay. Because I was like, well, they're obviously getting ready for action of some kind, like ready to jump, like the Van Halen song, or like to take action, to move about freely. But this is a business suit, which totally changes everything. It's like, okay, they're fully committed to this, and it's something hard to get out of.
It is something hard to get out.
So they get fully involved in it, and they get in it, and then once you get in it, it's hard to get out of it, and that can cause problems. You have to, say, go to the bathroom, or you have to transition quickly to something else. You're kind of fully involved. It's kind of like it's hard to get out of this thing once you get in it. Takes some dedication to put a jumpsuit on, and you probably have to have help to get out of it. I mean, if it's the way I'm thinking it is, or maybe if you're like young and spry, you can get out of it easily. But some of us, if I put something like that on, I would have to have someone else assist me because I would pull a muscle at my age trying to unzip the back of it.
Any significance to the legs of it being long though, and her stepping on them?
So it's kind of the opposite of the. So I live in Tennessee. If you can't tell, I sound like there is a cartoon. If Cornbread was a cartoon, I would do the voiceover. And Melissa actually does voiceovers, but she's in Kentucky. So we have a phrase here in this part of the country which says, "It's too big for your britches." Like if someone is thinks they're better than their family, they're cocky, they're prideful. But
Mm-hmm.
this is the opposite of that, where the britches are too big for her. And britches is an old English word for pants that we have still kept to mean jeans or pants or hosen. But it's the opposite, or the jeans, the britches are too big for her. So it's something she has to grow into. She's trying to walk in it, but she has to grow into walking in it. Or it might just be something that's kind of too big for her in general. Because like it can be like a child has to grow into their genes or hand me downs, and sometimes it's just like if you're a certain age, it's kind of permanently too big for you. Trying to walk in it, but it's still too big. So you either alter what you're trying to walk in, like you roll the bottoms up, or you just kind of do damage over time trying to walk in something that's too big to handle.
So the dreamer would she needs to look for something in her life that
Fits her.
so I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think about like so does she need to look maybe and eliminate whatever it is that she's trying to walk in that is too big for her?
Yes, unless so in real life, like someone's like 5'5", they're not going to grow into wearing jeans meant for someone that's 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
Normally, real life, unless they're a child. But in a dream, anything can happen. So it's possible that this is just permanently too big, or it's something they haven't grown into yet. Because in a dream, we don't have the biological limitations we do, in real life. So it could go either way.
Okay.
But at the present time, it's she's trying to walk in something too big for her. It's the
Okay.
opposite of too big for your britches. It's like there's not enough confidence. In the colloquialism, there's too much confidence and the jeans are too small. In this one, there's not enough confidence and the jeans are too big.
Gotcha.
So
So
for
so
either
it could be
case,
she needs to alter something or it could be that she needs to gain more confidence.
yeah, alter it, grow into it, or change into something else.
Gotcha.
But what's happening right now is just going to look silly and it's going to wear a hole in it.
Mm.
Because growing up poor, we had to. I rarely got jeans. I was the first owner of. So if they're too big, like you have a cousin that plays football, for example, like I did, then you will literally your heel will wear a hole in the jeans because the jeans are being drug on the ground where your
Gotcha.
heel is. It can do damage to it and
Okay.
make you trip.
Gosh, this is I mean like this is a really good word for somebody. I'm excited. Um so next she gets into a Goodwill store
Hmm.
and her pastor and one of his sons are there. Um she says she's very close to the son in real life and the son picks out a covering for her. And I asked her to describe the covering a little more. She said it was basically like kind of like a blanket or a poncho or something, like just something with a hole for the
Hmm.
head. It was like a v-neck hole, and literally you would just put it over your head. It was a covering, something that she would never wear in real life.
The Clint
Um,
Eastwood movie where he's got the
yeah.
metal plate under it. It's a bulletproof vest. What was the name of that movie? Sorry, my grandfather loved westerns, and I
Um,
lived with him for 3 years. So Goodwill. This is one of those things where synonyms come in. What's a synonym for goodwill?
so are you meaning like Goodwill as in the
Not
store
the
or
store, but there's the concept of goodwill.
oh like I mean you think of tidings and goodwill and
Hmm. Grace,
generosity.
favor,
Yeah.
good intentions, grace,
Mhm.
favor, goodwill, uh, greetings. There's very much a concept of wanting to something positive to happen. The intention is good. And of course, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, is the proverb. But the intentions are good. Everyone's gathered because of someone's good intentions. Whatever the outcome is, the intentions were honest. There's a goodwill there. Goodwill is also can be translated Godwill. So the English word good and the English word God are very similar because in German it's gut is good and gott is God. And the word for good and the word for God are literally tied together intentionally because good and God is good. And this is very linguistically similar.
Mhm.
So it's either could be like think God's will or think good will, like good intentions. So either way is positive,
Gotcha.
but it can go either way depending on
Okay.
the context. So something to be aware of. But this is the context. It's not the dollar store anymore. It's not the very cheap temporary thing. It's it's another store where you generally buy clothing, but other things, but it's there because of someone's good intentions. The Dollar Tree, you're there for convenience. The Goodwill is there for intentions, and it's also things that are inherited. You're gonna pick up something that used to belong to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like something inherited, something's not the first owner. But go ahead. So they're at a Goodwill, and there's the pastor and a pastor's son.
Uh-huh.
So a pastor can often represent God, and his son would, of course, represent the only begotten Son of God, Jesus or Yeshua.
Aww.
So that could be a layer of it, or these could be the actual people, or something people represent. Like someone's got a terrible relationship with their pastor, like if their pastor like was abusive or something crazy, then it would represent bad things. Or the pastor is a great person, like very generous. He's known for being generous. The pastor could represent generosity. But in a general, very general context, it represents God, Jesus, the pastor, and the pastor's son. But of course, it could be individual people or it could be individual traits these people have in real life.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it was actually, so now that you said that, oh, this is beautiful. It was actually the son who picked out the covering. The son picked out a very classy black
Mhm.
and white one. And the dreamer said she picked up one off of the next rack that was glittery and had baby blue and pink in it. Although she did mention that in real life she would never really like either one of them, but definitely would have not gone with glittery and baby blue and pink. She would have preferred in real life the solid colors, but that she'd wanted the other one, but she ended up going with the one that the son picked out.
So she ended up going with the one the son picked out.
Uh huh.
So she chose what the son chose.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, she made the right decision. She chose the pastor's son did represent Jesus, and she chose what Jesus chose. And black and white normally is in itself is like a very black and white issue. It's right or it's wrong. Period. It's true or it's false. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Not like wiggle room. It's very serious, but it's also classier, more formal, more sometimes more traditional, but more ready to do something maybe in the business world or professionally. And blue and pink are usually colors of childhood, boys and girls, childhood, and they could also be like gender roles. Like sometimes there's like the everything's based upon being a boy or a girl. Girls don't do that, boys don't do that kind of thing. Black and white is more like everybody's there for business, like a tuxedo or like a business suit. It's more, no, no, this is just, this needs to be done instead of a pink and blue issue of, well, I'm a boy, so I don't do that, or I'm a girl, so I can't do that. Sometimes it's tied to ministry. Like women can't do that in ministry, or boys can't do that at the house, kind of thing. But it was very glittery, so it was very showy, very wanting attention, and sometimes it can be like about babies, girl babies, boy babies, and of course nothing gets attention like a new baby on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing draws that much attention, but there was something else chosen for her that seemed to be more professional and less gender based, and
Gotcha.
maybe more adult. But there's room for a head in it, which is kind of interesting. Like, yeah, there's room for a head to poke through, or a leader. There's room for leadership. There's room for a head to poke, and there's covering. Like there's covering, which can mean a lot of things: pastoral covering, spousal covering, sometimes even prayer covering, spiritual covering.
Gotcha. That is so good. What a beautiful picture. Oh my goodness. She picked out what the sun picked out for her. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. So it goes on, and this is after she's gotten the covering that the sun picked out. She's talking with the pastor. They were laughing and hanging out like friends. But she said it felt, and she used the term almost felt flirty. So
Hmm.
I'm not really sure what that means. But anyway, said that there was some kind of attraction, but it sounds like it's not really a romantic attraction, but there was some kind of connection there
So the with the son or with the dad?
with the dad.
With the dad is best. Okay. Mm. So a pastor, people often represent also their vocations. So like if someone's a banker, it could be like a relationship with money, or if it's a pastor, a relationship with God, or a relationship with the church, or a relationship with ministry. And so, how does she feel about the connection?
Mm, well, she didn't really say there. Let me flip over. At the end of the dream, I think she commented something else about it. Let me get to that. Um, she said she just remembered the talking and the laughing. She said, even in the dream, my subconscious realized that I guess that they were too friendly, sounds like, and that they had this attraction to deal with. Nothing happened. It was just feelings in a dream.
So the dreamer took it as an actual person, individual person. It could be
Mm-hmm.
bad. Suppose the dreamer is married or has other commitments of some kind, like a boyfriend or whatnot. But the sometimes it's you feel like you're cheating on what you committed yourself to. Like if someone has committed themselves to being a doctor, for example, but God wants they're flirting with the idea of being a missionary. They might have a dream about a doctor and they're cheating on the doctor with a missionary, for example. But
Gotcha.
it's like, oh, it's either flirting, they committed yourself to one thing, but you're flirting with this other thing. Like committing themselves as this certain thing in life, but they're really flirting with something contrary to that, which might go back to the covering and the boys and girls thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone's committed themselves to a very certain kind of lifestyle, like a very black and white, I'm the man, you're the woman kind of lifestyle, is very common in the South, for example. But then they're called to move to a city or they're called to do something professionally that is less gender based. Like it's black and white. It's a suit business suit. It's like you work at a bank in New York. They don't care if you're a boy or a girl. You can still run the company.
Right.
But if you're like in a small town in Tennessee, it's like women don't do that. Women stay home make cornbread. This is kind of it's contradicting ideas.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And God might have the son might have something for the dreamer that her environment or her upbringing doesn't really mesh with or doesn't meet the expectation
Mm-hmm.
of what they might have grown up wanting or expecting or personally desire. Might have something bigger. It's like the boy or girl thing. Is maybe instead of like having a bunch of little babies, it's I've got this business thing or this ministry thing for you that's contrary to having a bunch of little toddlers. If you have to travel, for example, these things might be in contrast to each other, and the son has chosen one thing over the other thing, or Jesus chose one thing over the other thing.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so beautiful. So she goes on to say she describes a pool table that they were about to play pool. But she said that she was distracted and was messing with this thing to the side of the pool table that had animal statues. She said it was like a green field, and she was standing up these animal figurines in their places. She said the animals were brown, either brown bulls or horses or something like that.
So brown's usually like every color has two connotations. Like blue can be depression or it can be revelation. It's the same function. It's just different ways of using the same thing. Like you're trying to tap into something intangible. If you self focus, it's depression. If you God focus, it's revelation. Red can be wisdom or it can be anger.
What's
As
green? Because I'm looking like the pool table
Mhm.
obviously would be green, and then she's
Usually, yeah.
describing this green field over to the side too.
So green can be jealousy, like the green eye, having green eyed. They call it the green eyed monster. It's jealousy.
Oh yeah.
Or but also life in a positive life and growth and a consciousness awareness, like you're very aware of something, you're very conscious of something, is because it also takes jealousy is when you're conscious of something, you're aware of something. So it's like consciousness awareness can be life and growth. So there's a playing field at the pool table and then there's a field over here where it's like a mock setup, but she's arranging. What she's doing is arranging these things that are brown. So brown can be like a pastoral comforting kind of feeling, traditional feeling, or it can be humanity, humanness, uh, self will, kind of a very humanistic thing of men. People can, I can figure this out. People can figure this out. It's under man's control, kind of thing. So she's arranging these things in a very kind of human way. Like so, a cow is usually the economy, like something that makes money, like a cash cow, and then a
Yes.
horse is usually horsepower, it's power. But anyway, she's arranging these things, like these human relationships, these human functions, these very human things. She's trying to arrange them. She was engaged with someone playing pool. She was engaged with them, and then she left being engaged with them to just try to arrange this thing over here, try to control it, trying to put it all in place.
Gotcha.
Was she playing pool with the pastor and his son, or just someone, a random person?
It sounds like she had started playing pool with the pastor, but then got distracted.
So she like, if that represented God, then she's engaged with God in this kind of game of strategy, or engaged in some kind of playful way, jovial way, and just kind of got distracted by the controlling these moving parts over here. This work, economy, financial kind of stuff. These means of production. Got distracted with that and has to go back and re-engage with God if she wants to continue, I guess. Because what happens if someone quits playing with us? We just quit playing the game eventually.
Oh yeah. Wow. Ooh, wow. Good point. So she says that she gets the feeling that this stuff is from an estate. Um, so I guess like I guess someone's estate
Mhm.
didn't sell or whatever, and so they donated this person's items to the Goodwill. Sounds like.
They previously belonged to someone else, and now it's blessing the next person. Like the lifetime of something has expired, and now it's being used to bless someone else. Like say there's a church building, and the church doesn't work out, or the pastor passes away, or something, then that church might no longer be an organization. But another group might come in and buy the church building and have services. So the second group is benefiting from what the first one purchased or bought or built. So all these, the dreamer is kind of inheriting something that was left behind, or benefiting from something someone else left behind. They either walked away from it, or got tired of it, or they died, or they didn't want it anymore, or they moved, or something happened. So they're kind of picking up where someone else left off.
Wow.
So what the clothes at the dollar store, the clothes and the refreshment weren't something that was from an estate. But the pool table and the animals from an estate were from an estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So the pool table is like entertainment, engagement, social activity. It's relationship building in a sense. I actually grew up playing pool. This surprises people. Um,
Oh, that's right. I have played pool with you before. I forgot that.
Everybody thinks I'm such a yuppie. Like, no, 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 no. I grew up pretty much at a bar.
Yeah,
It was a bar, it was a country cafe, and everybody was drinking all the time. But yeah, it was.
you were
It
like
was
the
fun.
Passover pool shark.
That's right. It's like, no, I didn't know. I didn't grow up playing tennis. We played pool. Then I grew up in the air, went to the Air Force, and it was like the enlisted club, like a bar and a pool table.
I
Uh,
forgot
so
that.
everybody's like,
That's
"Ah, Newman can shoot." He did not seem like the type. Um,
I
I
remember
grew up with people that
everybody
did it.
was like,
What?
"Whoa, look at Brian."
Yeah, I think we had some pastors there too. So it was. I don't play cards though at all, but a way to engage with someone. It helps you learn about them too. It sharpens both your thinking skills. So it's a game that's meant to sharpen your skills, sharpen your mind, kind of challenge you, kind of thing. So it's that kind of game. It's not just a goofy game. It's like this is a skill building game. And like if you were playing with someone better than you, it would teach you, challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
And the dreamer left being challenged maybe by God to go and fiddle with stuff. That's like I've got to figure out this financial thing or this work thing and move all these pieces around in the right way. and they kind of neglecting engaging with God to go manage these other physical material things
Wow,
in a
what a
very
lesson.
very human focused way.
Mm, gosh, that is so good. I mean, that is serious. And then the last part of the dream here, she goes on to explain that there was something about a piece of paper
Mm.
that was involved in the dream, and when she woke up, she either didn't know or couldn't remember what was on the piece of paper, but she said that even in real life, she just had this urgent feeling like the pastor would also know what was on the piece of paper. I guess he had read it in the dream, and she felt like it. Even in real life, he would have to know what that piece of paper said.
So previously it was an estate. So like these horses and cows were inherited as well.
Yeah, so at the Goodwill, there was everything at the Goodwill that she talks about was from this estate. So the coverings, the pool table, the field with the animals, and I suppose the piece of paper. Yeah.
So it was originally someone else's, maybe the parents, maybe the generational line, but she didn't seem to know who it came from. So it's something she kind of walked into taking over if she wanted to. Because the Goodwill, you don't just get it and pick it up; you have to buy it.
Mm,
There's usually a sacrifice to get hold of it. It requires favor. Choices have to be made. You want this thing instead of that thing. And she had the opportunity to engage with God on things, but she was choosing to focus on moving some very temporary things around in the financial, occupational aspect. And a field is also generally land, so it seems like a family situation, maybe an inheritance situation. Could be a geographical thing, like there's a field and there's these cows and these horses in this field. There's this little piece of geography, and this geography is kind of taking the focus away from God. It's like this town, this area, this farm, this plot of land is kind of getting the focus instead of God, what God's trying to do. So there's that. I told you about the piece of paper thing. Still makes me crazy. Still don't know what was on it because it's someone else's dream. Uh, a super sweet person. I don't think God ever released her to say what it is. Um, but the I was focused on the person in the dream, the female in the dream, instead of what this angel was actually trying to show me on a piece of paper. So it seems very similar. And but in the dream, this dream you're describing, the anonymous dreamer, this dreamer knew what it meant, and it was a pastor. So it can be God. Like God knows what it means, so maybe you should go ask God about it, kind of thing. And then it was also the pastor in real life knew. So either this particular pastor, as an individual, would have the interpretation, or this person as an individual represents an occupation. So if you submit to authority and you go to your leadership in general, the leadership would help you understand it. Because like I listen to Remnant Radio a lot, they're really good at helping the charismatic community and the spirit filled community and the Pentecostal community sort things out. Like they do edification. Like when things get out of whack, they kind of come in and say, "Look, guys, we need to talk about this. God is not making gold dust rain down the ceiling. I promise you." That's they said that civically, but it's a thing that's really big in those circles is the gold dusting. And like Nehemiah Restoration Fellowship that I attend, they do similar for like the Hebraic Messianic movement. It's like, look, guys, you can still get saved if you say God's name the wrong way. It's kind of ridiculous to think God's going to deny you salvation because you said his name the wrong way in Hebrew. They kind of exhortation to kind of edify the Hebraic Messianic movement to have a more biblical view of things, kind of like Remnant Radio does with the charismatic spirit filled Pentecostal movement. But so Remnant Radio had a thing about testing prophetic words. You have a prophetic word before you mass release it to the public. It's usually best to go to your leadership because other prophets would confer. Like your prophetic word, your leadership would confer that this is in fact a prophetic word from God, and then you could release it. Because if not, you can kind of do damage going out on your own, making decisions on your own without consulting anyone. So, like if the dreamer had a dream, the dreamer could also take the dream to their elders or their leadership to see what they think it means before they made any big life altering decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of the process. If like a prophet, I think it's in Corinthians, a prophet gives a word and it says let the others decide. Sometimes they think that's the other prophets, and sometimes they think it's the rest of the church as a whole, of the assembly, or sometimes it's the leadership that decides okay that's the God or that's not. Because some people have had very unusual dreams, and they just go off and do things based on the dream that they either misinterpreted, or the dream wasn't from God or wasn't to do right then. But in the dream, it seems like a direct instruction almost to take it to God. If you're worried, take it to God, or take it to leadership, or take it to both.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I was taking notes as I always do when you're giving your interpretations, and my goodness, this is so deep and just so many messages. And when you step back and look at each message as we went through that line by line, my goodness, what a beautiful story and what a clear message it tells.
Yeah, and I felt kind of bad for a minute because I didn't get like a clear this is a summary of your dream or what to do. To the dreamer, it's like whoever this person is, it's I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what it means. I know these symbols individually, but putting it all together is no super clear message. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, at the end of the dream, says, "Hey, take this to God, take it to your pastor." They're going to understand the rest of it. They're going to know what's on the piece of paper. Because part of it's left a mystery, and God does it sometimes. So He wants you to die. Sometimes it's simply an invitation to go deeper with Him, and the dream is just a means of doing that. Or sometimes it's God has to tell you direct, because once God tells you, you can't doubt it. Or once the leadership tells you, you're kind of accountable for it. So there's a lot of reasons for sometimes keeping part of a dream a mystery, or
Mm-hmm.
keeping the whole dream a mystery until a later time. So it wasn't the entire thing wasn't meant to have a summary right now by like a dream interpreter. It was meant to either God's going to give the rest of it, or the pastor and the congregation is going to give the rest of it.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So, when I was talking to the dreamer about this, she was so distraught over having this dream because it was, one of those dreams that had plagued her.
Mhm.
After she had it, she was really just disturbed over it and was just wrestling with it and what it meant and why she even had this dream. And she was like just super concerned. She's like,
Mhm.
why did I have this? She was really just distraught.
Mhm.
Is the only thing that I can think of. So, I I'm just sure she's listening right now. So I'm so thankful for your interpretation. So I know, like you said, this will mean a whole lot to her personally, but things that you and I probably aren't even aware of.
Mhm.
But just the message that this is from God. This is what God was trying to tell her, and it wasn't anything to be distraught about. It was just directions.
And we had another dream that was about a lion in the field, I think, that
Mm-hmm.
was a similar meaning. And the on distraught, sometimes it's distraught because the spirit's contrary to our soul. Our soul is our mind, will, and emotions, and our spirit is contrary to our soul, and this is causing this distraughtness. And sometimes it's because you're very literal, so we interpret something very literally when it's actually a symbol. Like sometimes people have dreams about murdering someone, which is of course terrible. And of course against the commandments, don't do it. But Reese Saunders, who's one of the guys at Strings Ministries that teaches dream interpretation, I actually learned it from them mostly. Um, is that if you have a dream about murdering someone, chances are it actually means you're supposed to cut off relationship with them. You're supposed to kill the relationship, not the person. You just kill the relationship. But it's very disturbing because people wake up thinking they're a murderer and they're a psychopath. No, 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 no. That's just God telling you to cut off relationship. So if we take a symbolic thing very literally, like in a dream, if you're kissing someone in a dream that's not your spouse, then it doesn't mean you're tempted, you're an adulterer. It doesn't mean all this most of the time. It just means like, oh, you're connecting with something else outside of what you're committed to already.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
pastor, John Paul Jackson talked about a pastor who his secretary, the pastor's wife had a dream sorry, someone in the congregation had a dream their pastor was kissing the secretary, not his wife. Got all over the church. The woman told the whole church her dream. Caused a big giant thing. The pastor had to quit.
Oh
Awful.
gosh.
And what it means was the pastor was dedicating more of himself to the ministry than it was to his wife, because the secretary is the one that did had been helped him with the ministry stuff. So
Mm,
that's all it meant was like you need to quit working so much, spend time at home. It didn't mean
wow.
he's cheating, but people took it literally, and people shared it with people that shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
and they did take it to leadership and turn into this big giant thing that caused a lot of distraughtness because someone took a symbol and made it literal.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So
Yeah,
save
so
someone a lot of stress, hopefully.
yeah. So a lot of wisdom in your interpretation today, not only just to the dreamer, but for all of us, to be careful who we share our dreams with because I've seen a lot of damage done, and just exactly like the example that you just given. There's a lot of damage that can be done by people who misappropriate the things that he gives us.
Yes, very, very much so. And I had two dreams once. I posted on Facebook because I didn't really know any better, and they freaked me out. And a lot of people who don't understand spiritual things, or choose to not understand spiritual things, or just wanted the opportunity to cause trouble, made a lot of trouble out of it. So I learned to not post mine publicly like that
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
hard way. I actually went to court and everything. Probably the first court case ever based upon someone having a dream, but it ended up being a court thing, which got dropped in the whole thing, but it was still rather traumatic. So, personal experience, be careful with your dreams.
Wow, man, thank you so much for your interpretation today. That was just fantastic. I'm so excited for her to hear this. So, that is pretty much, well, yeah, we're actually over our hour. So, I
Awesome.
guess we will call it for today's
Awesome.
episode. But again, thanks to you and thanks to our audience too, both for participating and listening tonight. I know it just means so much to us. It's our heart's desire to spread the word of Yahweh and bring awareness to His name and to His Torah, and hopefully be able to reflect some of the light of Yeshua Jesus throughout the world. So again, thank you so much. We just appreciate everything, the submissions, the comments and questions that we're getting, the likes, the follows, the shares. We appreciate that so much. So again, if you get a moment, go check out Brian's website. Again, it's shalomtoyourheart.com. I know he elaborated a little bit on there earlier. You can now reach him there for the life coaching sessions to get one of those scheduled. And then again, it's just a treasure chest of resources. And he can also be found on YouTube at Shalom to Your Heart, and on Facebook we have our personal pages. Goodness, I can't talk now. His is Brian Azriel Newman, and mine is just under Melissa Collins. But also, Shalom Letters now has a Facebook page as well, so check us out there. And again, don't forget to like, follow, share, comment, all of those things that helps the algorithm put us in front of more people. So we appreciate any efforts on that front. And then finally, if you feel led to support Brian's ministry, his PayPal is shalom to your heart at gmail.com. And of course, we can also be reached at that email as well. PayPal shalom to your heart at gmail.com. So as always, Brian, as we close out, would you care to close us out in prayer?
Yahweh, thank you for all of our listeners. Ask you to give them dreams from you, the meaning of those dreams, and instructions on how to handle those dreams, and just open all of our hearts and minds to what you say in the night hours, as King David said in Psalm 16. In Yeshua's name, Amen.
Amen. Thank you again, Brian, and thank you again to our audience. We love you all so much. God bless you all, and we will see you back here next week. Shalom.
Shalom.